supremest camaraderie and of the supremest camaraderie. I will tell you. When you go to the Matari, Jogo to the Africa, I fell out Hilo, as the Kim Monaco to Koala Dini. I got it made back to Calapin, but don't know half of by alone. With us. Now I was acting precious. My personal. The World Council of Tickets is not Tom's Council. Which was this agency and office of Thomas Commander Atalad. That's I and India, Israel Palmer, to cover and Rafi and Sleep or Banjo. That is to say, she put the legit big lion. I don't hear by you. Comrade Ayomide, this way, XY Parrot, Atiba. He rests some people. God made me a kite. I used to learn, but I like it.
And of the supremest camaraderie, Wodiwo, the Laturuku, may we all walk and never to be stumbled. This is the voice of Patron Femi Fadah, that of the Iliadu Atiba, the palace of Karability in particular. I am a lover of culture, and I belong to Kegites Club. Kegites is a sociocultural club, the fastest growing sociocultural club in our society, with over 1,000 coronated services all over the galaxy. Kegites is one of the most organized sociocultural club in our society, with the rules and regulation that guides them. We were transformed by regalia and our capital with emblem, and when we climb the Iroko tree, our emblem will be capsized and be decayed by a carried chief.
Ayé ire, àwo òkùnkùn, ẹ fìkà sílẹ̀. Ẹ̀san ti dé o, Balógun lọ́rùn. Ṣàgbàlá jáde, Ègbodò wọlé. Ẹ̀san ti dé o, Balógun lọ́rùn. Ṣàgbàlá jáde, Ègbodò wọlé. Ilé máa rọrùn, òde máa.
Supreme Comradium. My name is High Chief Rotarian Arinze Frank Freeman Buchuku, the Chief of Ilya de Binobabi, that is to say, Atiba State College of Education Technical, Arochukwu, 2020-2021 Kegie, popularly known as Oracle Ibinobabi. Ko Sera Sera, for those that can just oppose the original. I'm the Vice Chairman of Atiba Kegites Club, that is to say, Kegites Club International, Atiba Hemispherian Council. Well, Kegites Club was formed by some students of the Nigerian institution then, back in 1962, as a social-cultural club where they come together after the stress and hurdle of the academic week. They meet, they drink palm wine, and they gyrate and make merry and forget their stress for the time being, relieve themselves of the stress of the academic institution. And of course, the reason why they drink palm wine is that is to promote our African culture, as whiskey, soda drinks, hot and scotch and what have you are all man-made. You know, they're a product of a chemical process that's done in the laboratory, but the palm wine is the only natural drink, you know, gotten in Africa. So they started to use the palm wine as a means of relaxing themselves and also to showcase their African culture. And over the years, Kegites has grown, spread its tentacles all over the world. It currently is one of the biggest social cultural clubs globally all over the world. And membership is across all tribes, across all tongues, social status and races. And of course, it's a non-religious, non-ethnic and non-partisan group. So we love each other and we come together to celebrate ourselves.
The Supreme Comradium. I am Chief Feishayo Okoyemi Benson. A.B. Meleki, 2009-2010. Ilya Meleki is Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agowe, Ogun State. First, I would like to say a few things I know about Kegite culture in relation to DEKEGATION. Kegite Club is a sociocultural organization that promotes peace, culture in the African way. And DEKEGATION is basically the highest form of punishment for a member of Kegite Club. In another way, DEKEGATION is saying goodbye to members who have lost their lives. You may be wondering, what is DEKEGATION? DEKEGATION, in a layman's language, is sending a member out of the club.
My appearance signifies a chief in Kegites Club. Kegites Club in all institutions. According to some people, in Yoruba language they call them Egbelem. In English language they are called Kegites Club. Supremos in Baladun in general. To all Kutasis to add Egbelaticos, I doff my cocoa for Uganda. Father says, you are recognized. Son says, you are just too much. All petty, meti, LSFCs, SFCs, you are just too jandu. At this Serafiriki Momentum Junction J, Kegites Club International, most of our norms are deeply connected to culture. That is why in Kegites Club we instill moral, discipline of the highest order. Yes, it is very, very rare before you can see a particular entity to misbehave. If that entity knows what he or she is doing, definitely is going to exhibit moral and discipline of the highest order. Most of our norms, like I said earlier, are deeply rooted in culture, traditionally. Yes. Now, there are some norms in Kegites Club, which I will just try to talk about few of them. First, I'll talk about DEKEGATION. DEKEGATION. What do you call DEKEGATION? In English term, we call it banishment. When any member misbehave, contrary to what the law of the club says, such entity will be banished. Such entity will be decayed. DEKEGATION simply means an act of sending away any hearing member that has already acted, misbehaved contrary to what the law says. In our club, what we believe in is silation. In English term, it is called constitution. Most of our laws are being put together and we term it as silation. Now, not just that when any member misbehave with the cake, there are some acts that are very, very heinous, some heinous activities, some attitudes that are very, very inimical, some attitudes that are unbearable, some attitudes that are odd in the public. I will mention just 3 acts that may warrant DEKEGATION. First of all, when an entity falsifies his or her documents, our primary assignment is our academics. When an entity that wants to join the club or that wanted to vie for a particular post in Kegites Club falsifies documents. When such secret is being opened, such entity will be decayed without no remedy. Another act that may warrant DEKEGATION is impersonation. When an entity travels from his own hemisphere to another hemisphere and call himself what he is not. For example, an entity in a particular hemisphere traveled to another hemisphere and started to parade himself as a chief or as a G-Lord. If the secret is open, such entity will be decayed without no remedy. Silation. And the third act that may warrant DEKEGATION is when such entity belongs to Ayamalile. Ayamalile, to us, we know what it means. To those that are outside, that may not know the meaning of Ayamalile, is any other club that is not Kegites Club. Any other club, because we believe that this is Kegites Club, social cultural club. You can join any other social cultural club elsewhere. Fine. But if you belong to any other club that is not social cultural in context, that is not social cultural in context, such entity, if he or she is being caught, he or she will be decayed.
Ọ̀yẹ́yẹ́ ló bí àwo iye.
Àwo tó dalẹ̀ abalẹ̀ lọ, òtítọ́
can dekeg a member if they've gone against the rules and the norms of the club to the barest minimum. You can also dekeg a member who has lost their life. We do this to say, oh, this person is no longer part of us by virtue of death. So we do that ceremony for them, not because we no longer love them, not because they have offended the club, but because they're no longer with us physically. So it's a way to say we are parting away from these persons because they're no longer alive. So that is it.
Now, when you talk about DEKEGATION comradically is a sacred process that the club does not joke with. It's sacred in the sense of DEKEGATION is another word for banishment or expulsion, as you may have it. It's another word for banishment or expulsion. And it is considered one of the most sacred and serious things that can be done in comradion. Let me explain. DEKEGATION have been done only in two manners. When someone breaks or commits an unforgivable offense in the club, or when someone dies, they are banished or expelled from the club. There are reasons why DEKEGATION have been done on both sides. For example, when someone breaks a rule or a regulation guiding the club, or commits what we call a cardinal sin, radically. Like, for example, when someone is being caught in the act of armed robbery, in the act of stealing, or any social vices that is considered negative and against the ethos and ethics of the Supremos Commander, such a person is being dekegged or banished from the club. Likewise, when somebody who is a member dies, as a member, when the person dies, the club also dekegs the person to sever the relationship we have with the person. Because nobody comes into the world a carried entity, and nobody leaves the world a carried entity. So we always sever that relationship we have with that person for them to go. Since they have climbed the tallest Iroko tree, they are never to rotate Abubakar. So for them to go and rest in perfect peace.
If you're asking as a chief, asking me as a chief in Supreme Comrado, have I ever decayed when I was AB? When I was AB chief, I decayed those two entities. Though I don't want to decay them, but there are some issues that warrant their decayation. As a chief in Supreme Comrado, what I believe most is that when we talk about moral and discipline, it's supposed to show on an entity. I don't believe in suspending an entity before that person will come back to his senses. I don't believe in dekegging an entity before that entity will come back to his senses. No, that was my own philosophy when I was AB chief. But the issue that warranted dekegation of those two entities as at that time was based on Ayamalele. That is it. Now, if peradventure an entity climbed the topmost tree, that's the time we use in Kegites law. In a normal humanity life, we call it when someone died. Now, an entity can die. What we normally do as a chief of that particular area or in charge of a particular tent or that is around as at that particular time, what will they do? They will turn the regalia upside down at the capital. And also the comrades, they will turn the regalia and capital upside down. Then they are going to decay the spirit of the deceased entity. It is not relational, but it is traditional. Why? Culturally, we believe that when we lose or we couldn't see our loved ones again, peradventure they died, we believe that their spirit will always move around to still come and mingle with us. Culturally and traditionally, they will perform some perpetrations to allow the spirit of that deceased to rest, not to come back and mingle with the living souls again. That is where we borrow that ideology into Kegites Club. That we must decay, delete, send away the spirit of the deceased, but it is not relational. But like I said earlier, all our norms are deeply rooted in culture and our tradition. So that is what brought up the idea of decaying the spirit of the deceased.
Services to God. I fought, I rewind, I pay. bí ó ṣe èmi àti ilé mi ẹlẹ́mu ni àwọn wàásù tẹ́lẹ̀ bí active ní news of our institution. Confounder me under put on the video, job location my Lord that I am. Alexander de Tokmo, Alex, Akema de Christian of Kulana Chepedu. Èmi náà wọ́n kó iná bàjí kó ní gbọ́mà sọ̀tọ̀mà lọ́tọ́ àkèrè fún àbíyá wa ìgbọ́ ńlá bá pẹ́ wa. Kéńgbé já kéńgbé sọ irú jà fún lẹ́kẹ̀ ìjà tó rú tó. Sì tí alukíra ní èkúrọ́ lọ́la bá pẹ́ wa. Yé báyìí. Ojúbọ gbogbo máa bá rẹ̀ wọ́n ti gbòòlù tí wà tí. Ọdún làkàtí kó lórí ojú rẹ̀ tí wọ́n. Yé báyìí. Ticket, all information. That as from today go tomorrow Moroto, they shall not be recognized in our meeting. But Janet with Baba Elefari till infinity. To God I have parted.
Kú ti ré kúrò lórí mi, àrùn ti ré kúrò lórí mi, òré ó dorí eku, ó dorí ẹja, ó dorí ìjàpá àbáhùn. Ìmúlẹ̀rẹ́ tí wá láwo ìṣẹ̀ṣe, àwo méje, àwo ire, èṣù àgùlọ̀nà fọ́mọ àwo. Àṣẹ ìtura olúgbòhùngbòhùn ni, àwo méje, àwo ire o.
Been opportune to dekeg someone before. Although it was not a living soul, it was a carried entity who has already climbed the tallest Iroko tree. He was the XYZ elder of my Ilya when I was the AD chief. And it happened that his burial ceremony was fixed when I was the AD chief. And we attended. It was a solemn time for us because when he was alive, he was a dedicated member of the club who was committed and he was active. And upon his demise, we have to celebrate the little time we have with him here on earth and sever the ties and relationship we have with him. Yes, I've been opportunity. I was the AB chief of my Ilya, and I was the chief that dekegged him at his burial ceremony. For a living soul, I think discipline being one of the tenets of Supreme Comradium, and dekegation is considered as the worst punishment you can give a carried member. So I think comrades are being extremely careful and everybody is keeping to the rules and regulations. And of course, we as the chiefesses who are custodians of the culture of the club, we do not enjoy and we do not find happiness in dekegging a carried soul. So we urge every member always at every point in time to abide by the rules and regulations of the club as we do not find joy in dekegging any carried soul.
Well, as regards whether I have been privileged to dekeg anyone, yes. And if I remember correctly, that should be when I became an XY chief. And I migrated to a particular area where I was a kind of a residential chief. That is Ilia Orono. At that point in time, a particular elder was there and he was trying to cause a lot of issues for the incumbent chief, which is the AB chief. I don't know his reasons for doing that, but he was kind of adamant and his actions shows he was not ready to allow that keg year be successful. He's been talked to on different occasions. On this particular day, he was fighting at the gyration ground, and I was present. And all efforts to calm the situation was looking like it wasn't going to be possible. He was threatening brimstone and thunder. So I decided that you won't be able to spoil this keg here for this innocent chief. Then I dekegged him. I think he was dekegged for a couple of years. But then the club also gives you the opportunity to receive a pardon. So after about 6-7 years, if I can remember correctly, he was pardoned and rekegged. So a member can be dekegged and also rekegged if he or she has realized their mistakes and has apologized sincerely. So there's room for a pardon, and then you'll be reinstated as a member. Reinstated in Kegite terms is rekeg. So that's that on that. As regards dekegging a lost soul, I can't really remember, but I've been a part of a procession that actually dekegged a lost soul. Now, looking back to the souls we've lost so far, I will start with one of my very, very carried father, Chief Bola Junaid of blessed memory. He is a chief of Mailia. May God rest his soul. He died some times ago in a motor accident. Also, another chief of Mailia, though I did not meet him in the Ilia, but then he was very carried father too. I met him alive, but I didn't meet him in his reign. He was quite one of the two sellers, Chief Shegun. We call him Olumeleki. Another carried chief. He's the second chief of Iliameleki, after the pioneer chief of Mailia. May God rest his soul as well. Also, another very carried entity, and this happened very recently, I think less than a year ago. He was a coordinator in Ebute Convergence, Ikorodu, called Tony. We had a gyration. He was going to his house in his car. An accident occurred, and that claimed his life. Another very carried Kuta. He was like a brother to me. But who are we to question God? So basically, when we lose members like this, it's a thing that pains us to the core. But no one has power over it. And that's why when it happens, we can only pray. And my prayer for each and every one of us is that we all live to old age and fulfill all that we're meant to fulfill. Those who have gone untimely, I sincerely sympathize with their families. And I pray that God will continue to give the families the fortitude to bear these irreplaceable losses. Once again, I am Chief Okpeyemi Fiyishayo Benson. People call me Chief Benson Meleki, the AB Meleki 2009-2010 Kegier. And thank you for having me. Bye.
And with this, I commiserate with the families that lost their loved ones throughout the Ugalaticos. May their spirit continue to rest in serene cottage. To me, I have some people in Supremos Igbalado, my comradical direct father, Chief Ademaye Loye Adebola Abiodun Ejalonebu, my comradical father. I don't sarcastically in your absentia. And likewise, I sympathize with the family of Chief Akindele. Everybody without respect. May your days be long. I doth sarcastically to your capability in absentia. As your faith and soil respect, may your spirit continue to rest in spirit in serene cottage. Thank you very much. I put a stop to it from this area, Afriki. As you all know, that invention happens to be the mother of circumstances. Circumstances will give birth to invention. That is why that things fall apart, the center must remain. Still remain my humble self, Chief Oluwatosin Adelowo, Chief Odu HIV 0708 Kege, all the way from Iliadu Sped. Thank you very much.
For members who have climbed the Torres Steel tree, those I can remember my very good friend, Chief Chukwemeka Christian Chimike, Opole of Ilya the Coconuts. I can remember Chief Jazzy Ilya Meta. I can remember my XYZ elder of Ilya Binubabi. I can remember Chief Dume Erosion. I can equally remember SFAB Black Ashina. You know, we've lost quite some number of carried entities in the club, and my prayers for them are that may their soul rest in perfect peace. And may we, as their friends who are left here on earth, continue to remember the good and the wonderful times we both all had and shared together. So that are my prayers for them.
We have lost so many Caribou souls that gave their best effort to the Supreme Comradion. They climbed the Iroko tree when we need them most. May their soul continue to rest in peace. May they continue to gyrate with Baba Eledumare in the uppermost shrine.
Àtijáwé ìwọ̀rọ̀ àtùwà lára, àtijáwé ẹlẹ́rọ àtùwà lára. Jẹ́ ìsinmi, ẹ̀wà jẹ́ ìsinmi, oṣó jẹ́ ìsinmi, àjẹ́ jẹ́ ìsinmi, ikú jẹ́